Well, hello everybody. My name is Sarah, and I very much love astrology, and I make a lot of videos on it. Well, so far I have a few. Okay, so I'm also interested in psychology, and today I'm going to talk about a specific mental/emotional disorder. It's known as borderline personality disorder. Okay, so what happens here? Like a personality disorder in general, is an inability to adapt. Okay, these are maladaptive behaviors and functions that are learned early on in life. Okay, as opposed to a person who has like PSTD, in which maybe something like a war affected them. Well, most of the time, borderline patients they have PSTD too. They get diagnosed with that sometimes, complicates everything. However, it's more or less related to traumatic experiences, like I said, within childhood. So this person develops a way of looking at relationships that is particularly unstable. And with a general definition of personality disorders, like I was saying, is just that it's an inability to function and very rigid thought patterns. So when I look at this, I think this person is literally stuck in time in the aspect of all personality disorders. Like they get stuck in a certain time frame in their mind and just won't go away. Sometimes. Depends. Okay, so they're known to keep fixated behavior. So, what are the specific criteria according to DSM, which is a Diagnostical Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders? Most psychiatrists do abide by the codes and the rules that associate themselves with certain mental illnesses in that book. So, anyways, borderline criteria. Now, I know it kind of by heart, but I did take notes here. Okay, so the number one thing that I think that really kind of sets off this whole borderline thing, see, it's part of the cluster B personalities. And I'll get into that in a minute. But borderline personality disorder is the inability to regulate your emotions. Okay, so a person with borderline personality disorder will often feel like they will be abandoned at any moment. So they have frantic efforts to avoid any type of perceived abandonment or, like something that is really happening. I mean, I don't know. See, with these people, so another thing in borderline personality disorder, they think in all black and all white. That you will often see, and this is not just with anyone with BPD, but people who use colorful language, people, specifically individuals who say, "I never want to see you again," or never or always, or you always do this, you never do that, and that's the whole thing with putting someone on a pedestal and then immediately look at a switch, just letting him go, or being on a seesaw with your partner and just jumping off. Bye. Anyways, so what I'm talking about in this regard is that there's so much. You will notice that sometimes these people display inconsiderate behavior. Sometimes they lack empathy. They don't lack it, but they find it hard to relate to anybody, because empathy is relating, sympathy is understanding, and apathy is I don't care about anything. Yeah. And that's more or less maybe antisocial personality disorder. It kind of depends on the situation. So back to borderline. They have a very distorted sense of self-image. Okay, I mean, and to the point where they don't even know their identity anymore, and this is because they have engulfed themselves in relationships. Usually, people with this ailment, I'll just refer to it as a disorder or whatever. I don't want to keep it saying borderline. Usually, people with this, okay, are gonna have, like I said, extreme emotional, intense relationships, turbulence, things of that nature. So what happens is they end up like I said, engulfing or becoming the person that they're with. Sometimes people with this disorder can be rather impressionable and they can pick up a lot of things. On the other hand, if they're paranoid and delusional for some things, which can happen with borderline personality disorder. You know what I mean? It's going to be on the other end of the spectrum there. Okay, so what else do I have written down here? An unstable self-image. Then we have impulsive behavior. This can be anything. Like, whoa, I'm gonna do some drugs, or I'm gonna gamble, or I'm gonna engage in risky sexual activity, or I'm gonna eat a lot, or I'm gonna go shop a lot. So anything to soothe you, anything that will temporarily relieve your problems, and no, that usually doesn't happen. Okay, so one of the biggest extremes of this type of behavior, and this is impulsive, but then it also falls into the category of self-destructive, self-harm, self-mutilation. And self-mutilation is something that a lot of people find very hard to grasp. Why would somebody deliberately pick up a knife or whatever and cut themselves anywhere? I know it sounds disturbing. For the most part, people with borderline personality disorder know what I'm talking about. And what happens here is that the individual will get a rush of dopamine, or maybe even something to calm them down, in the realm of, I am so angry, I don't want to hurt anybody, so I'm going to go in the dark room in the closet somewhere, and I'm going to rub a freaking wire hanger against my flesh until I feel something. No, I know that sounds crazy, it sounds insane, but it happens. And things that are crazy are just somebody else's idea of instability, because everybody has their own definition of crazy, okay? Because in other cultures, they cut themselves, and it's considered some kind of, I don't know, whatever. Thing is, in USA, where we are very quick to diagnose with everyone with a mental illness for whatever reason, don't ask me why. Psychotropic drug control, anyway. Back to borderline personality disorder, they will cut themselves, they can burn themselves, like I stated, and they're just out to get themselves, and they'd rather hurt, like I said, hurt themselves than others. And at this point, to be able to do this, you have to have a level of self-hatred, I guess, that really flies out the window there. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And that leads to one of the other criteria, a feeling of emptiness. The person feels like, what is the point? They are constantly asking that question, why? They're very dramatic. See, the cluster B disorders are all what they would call dramatic and not eccentric. I'm sorry, that's the first one. But just attention-seeking, dramatic, yeah. And what happens here with the fact that if they don't have feelings of self-worth that are adequate, they feel good, then they turn to emptiness, right? And if they feel empty, they feel like they're no one. And in turn, they have no goals. Okay, they don't know where they're going in life. They feel lost. See, there's this term that they use a lot, two terms actually, ambiguous, which is vague. It means, what's going on? For me, sometimes I envision words and actually define them. And then for me, thinking ambiguous, I'm thinking of like a car window wiper going back and forth. It's scraping off the water, and then after the water, and it's ambiguous. It's like, what the heck is going on here? And at the same time, ambivalent means, confused. I'm ambivalent. I'm on the fence. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And that the pendulum swings, and then we feel like we're running out of time. And this is why I believe that one of the main things that really goes along with borderline personality disorder is, it comes down to the following: I hate you. Don't leave me. So that is the feelings of vanity. Get to the point. Hate. Why do you hate this person? Well, for the most part, if you're borderline and you're dealing with relationships, turbulent relationships, you're going to be sort of dependent on the men or whoever you're with. You're going to depend on that person in a way. Sometimes these people get taken care of, or the baby, or enabled, and a lot of personality disorders may be like that. They might be enabled when you're younger, and poor baby, poor this, and poor totally neglected. But back to what I'm saying with the fact with borderline personality disorder, the three are, I hate you, don't leave me, they're pushing you away, and it's a mind trick. See, what they're saying is, I don't want you around, okay? I hate you. Don't leave me. Why? Borderlines are often really not in what I would call true love. They really kind of just mimic the person they're with. So if that's the case, if they're not able to feel true love because they have the feelings of emptiness and the chronic feelings, you know what I'm saying? This is hard for a person to form a healthy, stable relationship, and hence attracting jealous individuals. Why? You might be jealous yourself. Like, I feel that everyone needs to come to the term that if whatever you hate in yourself, you are going to hate in others, okay? Because you're so pissed off about whatever you're doing, okay, that causes you a lot of problems in your life, that when you see another person doing it, you call it negativity and get the hell away from me. Let's say that you were always late in the past. You're known for being late all the time, okay? I apologize. I keep on getting interrupted. Okay. So it's made back to the example of how someone's always late, right? Well, let's pretend that you were always late, okay? And for just throw an example out there, one time you were late, you should have been at the hospital at the right time, but you missed it, and then you didn't get to see your grandmother before she passed away. Okay, so if you're encountering someone, you have this trauma in your head, right? You encounter somebody who's late all the time. And after a few times, you're like, I kind of understand. I used to be late. It's cool. But it gets to the point where you're like, no. And I don't even know where this is going. All I'm saying is that sometimes a person with this disorder kind of thinks that the rules apply to everyone except themselves. Because when they're going through a dramatic breakdown that just seems to other people to be pretty stupid, why are you freaking out over a boyfriend? What is your problem? Move on. Get a life. No. See, people with this disorder, the primary focus is relationships most of the time. And like I said, they are not emotionally equipped. They need emotion regulation treatment. Well, that's how it's called. See, well, I'll get more into this into my next video, in which I will describe the treatments. And I'm not just talking about medication. I'm talking about some just very simple and just simplified from everything I've read about these kind of treatments. Okay, really quick, I want to conclude on a few more things that are associated with this disorder. Okay, so we already talked about the instability of mood. So what comes with instability of mood sometimes is episodes of rage. Okay, these come and go. I mean, it's not like they have an anger problem or intermittent explosive disorder in which they're exploding all the time. No, their anger solely stems from a relationship. They're most of the time. They're not going to flip out at someone in a grocery store or something like that unless they have been driven so far that they do that. But most of the time, no. The BPD people are usually focused on the relationship, any type of relationship they're having. And it can, what I'm talking about primarily is, romantic, but it can also apply to any relationship in your life. A sister, a mom, a cousin, a coworker, a pet, a doll. Yeah. Okay. So, and like we discussed about the feelings of inadequacy and the anger, and here's the thing. Let me give you a little history here. It's very interesting. Okay, so I read a lot of old school textbooks, which I mean by that, they're written in like the 1960s and 70s, and then I read a lot of old literature by Freud. Yeah. And so my point is that I have gotten a few terms that have, obviously expired possibly, but the whole background behind borderline personality disorder is because there's a border. See, obviously, And another thing I forgot to mention about people with BPD is that they do not have boundaries. And I'll get more into that. The thing with borderline personality disorder, when I picture borderline personality disorder, I'm thinking about a person standing on the edge of a cliff. I'm thinking about a person walking a tightrope. And this will be a perfect example I'm going to use in my next video when I talk about mindfulness. Okay, so trying to regroup here. So, anyways, back to what I read. What happens here is it was called borderline personality disorder to begin with, was known for being on the border of neurosis and psychosis. And obviously, in older times, they didn't have a lot of technology and or knowledge to even consider these type of things. However, newer stuff. But they kind of made it simple, really, and they just group it into neurosis and psychosis. So here's a person who can be very neurotic, which manifests in the fact, oh my God, you're going to leave me. I have a fear of abandonment. You know what I mean? I'm so anxiety ridden. And that's where the neurosis comes from. The fear of abandonment is the individual will leave them. But at the same time, they're pushing that person away. You get it? They don't think they can get love. So any love that comes their way is not true in their mind and go away from me. And there's no way you could love me because I'm a horrible person. I'm all bad. I'm all, And never mind. I just went on a tangent there. But seriously. So what's happening here is that they set a boundary. So there's a boundary between able to, how do I see, I'm sorry, I'm getting into schizophrenia thinking because, thinking about schizophrenia, because they used to be closely related. If you're walking on a tightrope, you can fall on the anxiety side, which will turn indeed into hysteria or paranoia, or you can walk into the psychosis realm. But the thing with borderline patients is that they do not exhibit enough psychosis to qualify for an actual diagnosis of schizophrenia. What makes it similar in a very small way is there's something they call splitting. So when there are extreme amounts of stress on a person, they can go into a dissociative trance. You know what I'm saying? In which they don't even think that what's going around them is real. Dissociative means that you're detached. Okay? And when you're doing something like this, you separate yourself into either all good or bad. You do it to yourself. And you can actually turn yourself into a cold-hearted person and flip the switch and be a loving person. And this is why a lot of people confuse it with bipolar disorder, but no. See, bipolar disorder is more, I'm not going to get into that right now. Believe me, I can go off on all kinds of different derailments and talk about, this railroad leads here and blah, blah, blah. What can put wrenches in the bicycle and the aspect of different diagnoses and what they need to include. Okay, so like in borderline personality disorder, when you're talking about self-harm, we're not talking about an individual who wants to commit suicide. We're talking about someone who just wants to hurt themselves because they feel pain. They don't want to die, So that has to be excluded. That would be more along the lines of depression. Then they would put it with anxiety, NOS, or something like that. And this is when diagnoses from the DSM get very confusing. And a lot of people, they don't like being grouped into a category. But honestly, the 9 personality disorders really do sum up a lot about basic characteristics. They are very generalized and vague. But I believe that with increased research, that we can eventually simplify things. Okay, this person is this, but it doesn't matter. We can know everything we want about people. Okay? It's whether or not we relate or understand. I mean, a doctor who's diagnoses patients, I'm wondering, does he always have to be a detached person? I'm not, you know what I mean. Anyways, so basically I touched on it all. Like I said, the stress-related paranoia can be going on. Transient, okay? And the person may pick physical fights. They get really aggressive. And like I said, these individuals often think the rules don't apply to them, but everybody else. And this also goes with narcissism. And this is in the same cluster, and then there's antisocial, and then there's histrionic. And honestly, they all have something to do with each other. That's why they're in the same cluster. But borderline is the most widely studied one. You know what I mean? Really, and that's the best way to start, I think, because borderline, I believe, is the higher chain, and it develops into different things. Whenever somebody diagnoses with a personality disorder, which will probably be pretty rare, unless not rare, but BPD has been diagnosed a lot lately, and I just never mind. So you just gotta distinguish what's going on from different personality, from different disorders, as opposed to a borderline personality disorder or any personality disorder. And one thing I can do to tell a person has a personality, you can really, I mean, it's noticeable as hell. After just communicating with the individual on a few occasions, you will be able to, gather what you would call a baseline, and you're observing your behavior. Okay, so you're looking at this. You see, in the first encounter, you see the person talks about themselves a lot. All right, they must be very proud of what they do. And then the second time you talk with them, they start name dropping. They start saying, "Oh yeah, I used to be involved in such and such, and I did this, and I knew so and so." Number three, they're going to exaggerate what they really did. You know what I mean? I went to school to be a psychologist. I studied psychology. Okay, but then if they elaborate and say that they became a psychologist when they didn't, that is pathological lying. And it's usually associated with all these cluster B disorders, because in the end, pathological lying is about desperation. I want to end this video with just recalling a certain movie that really touched me in a certain way regarding borderline personality disorder. And if you're not familiar with it, or if you've heard of it, it's kind of corny if you look at the. Anyways, you be the judge. The movie is called Gone Girl, and the actor Ben Affleck, and I forget whoever else. And what happens here is that the husband is accused of killing his wife. That's the main thing, and they're saying, did he do it? Now, it's interesting because the guy, Ben Affleck, maintains a aloof, rather, what's going on? And not really acting like a grieving spouse, right? So, that's weird. That's crazy, right? Most people would say yes. But me, looking at both sides of the spectrum, I feel that I know how a mental disorder is pathological as opposed to messed up. So a lot of the stuff in the movie was messed up, but I was able to identify, but understand why these people would do these things. Let me get to it. So he's accused of killing his wife, right? However, you find halfway through the movie that his wife Amy was very jealous of the discovery of him with a younger woman, right side, out, in the exact same area as she was with him. Basically, she was jealous. That's about a line, And so she faked her own death. You don't realize that until halfway in the movie. And she explains how she did everything. And the black guy that she was supposedly given by whoever, she instigated herself. Now, in the scene where they find her hitting herself in hitting herself in the eye with a hammer in the mirror, and just going, and then they flash to another scene. But that is what this is. It's desperation. People would ask you, why would you do something like that? Why would someone go as far as to inflict an injury on themselves, okay, in order to make themselves look like they were hurt? And I believe that borderline personality disorder, in a way, people say, oh, they want to get attention. Well, I don't know what kind of attention you're talking about or what you think they're looking for. That kind of offends me, when someone is severely hurt and someone just wants to just minimize it to the person. They want attention. It's a cry for help. Almost like they're losers. Get them out of here. Now, see, people with disorder, they're very, very, like I said, lost. They don't know what's going on. They don't have an identity in their minds. And they just feel like they're not a whole person. They don't feel like anything. Sometimes they feel so dead. And that's what comes in with the splitting and the transient behavior. And even finally can result in disassociation. So Dissociative behavior means that you're not aware, really, what's going on. You're in a dissociative state, like a trance. And very interesting, I just want to mention that dissociative identity disorder, also it used to be known as the multiple personality disorders. You know, it's called differential identity disorder. And what that means is that the person does. They really don't know that they are talking to somebody else, becoming somebody else, and someone with such a hard case would even forget and have amnesia, hence dissociation. You know, they don't know what's going on. And very much so, just throwing quickly, derealization, in which you mean when you feel nothing's real, and depersonalization, in which you feel you're not a person and you're probably a robot or in a movie. It all falls under that category of disassociation. Okay? So this is what happens at the extreme, where the borderline individual has nowhere else to go. And the thing is, sometimes they have everything in their head where they feel that the situation at the time is so insurmountable and it is so full of drama. I don't know what to do. That they get so desperate. And that's why they would display feelings and behavior like Amy did in the movie Gone Girl, in which she does hit herself in the face with a hammer. Anyone watching this movie would be like, whoa, what a psycho. Beep. Yeah. Okay? But for people, never mind. If you look at it, it's very abnormal. It's extremely what you would call crazy. But these people grew up in an atmosphere of where everybody seemed to have to fend for themselves. So you had to use psychological ammunition. You had to be a manipulator to fend for yourself, to do things, to get away from the people asking you questions, to get away from the lies. People asking questions, oh, I gotta manipulate, I'm gonna lie. And you learn from a very young age. And this happens to be enabled by their parents without their knowledge sometimes. And it grows into, from a weed, into a horrible thorn bush that pricks everybody around it. Or even a hurricane that causes a lot of problems. Okay, and that's borderline personality disorder, in my opinion. There's a couple of other things. Like I said, another thing I mentioned, extreme black and white thinking. Like I said, I hate you, but don't leave me so. I think you're a prince one day when you do something good for me. Thank you for going out in the snowstorm and getting my medication. I love you. But he didn't answer my fucking phone call. Excuse my language. He didn't answer my phone call. He hates me. He must be doing something behind my back now. I want you to know that this type of behavior is very much identified by a lot of individuals. All you have to do is seek them out. And if you talk to people, you know, a problem shared is a problem cut in half. So what I'm saying is this is talk therapy that was invented a long time ago. When you just talk, it's just, wow, it's common sense. You know, and with today's isolation, when it comes to technology and ignoring your immediate environment, and let's go into another land, another whole space land, and then you shut the computer, you have to deal with reality. Yeah, my point is that that's kind of a splitting technique as well, specifically for a borderline individual. They split down the middle and say, I'm going to be all good, I'm going to be all evil. And there are people like, and people that were in the news for committing famous crimes, not famous, but notorious horrible crimes. And I have to tell you that Joni Arias, okay? And the only reason why this person keeps on being brought up is because she is what? Supposedly very interesting. And very, whatever, nuts. She's got borderline personality disorder. You know, she really does. I don't know if she's diagnosed with that, but, you're wanting validation in men, and you think that if you don't have men, it's the end of your world. And in a way, I'm going all over the place and I'm about to end. If you watch the show 13 Reasons Why, isn't she doing the same thing? You know what I mean? What I just stated? I don't know. It just, yeah. Borderline personality disorder. And essentially, I'm not saying I did see a video, but she kind of really just offed herself because she felt ostracized from people. But the one thing was, nobody likes me. Clay doesn't like me. They think I'm all bad. They think I'm all good. You know, if you really look at her behavior. And that's why people were calling her drama queen. Okay, so I just wanted to give a few examples about borderline. Oh, Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is a perfect, she's got Saturn in the 4th, I believe. And a lot of women with Saturn in the 4th, believe me, I'm an astrologer, remember? If you have Saturn in the 4th or Saturn conjunct C, please, I really need to do some deep thinking. Or if you'd like to contact me, because I'm very good at discerning and dissecting astrology charts when it comes to borderline personality disorder or any personality disorder. You know? Okay, well, I really appreciate you listening to my video. I didn't mean to long draw it out, but there's just things I feel yet. So, with that said, I'm going to be making a part 2. How do you treat borderline personality disorder? What is the prognosis for this disorder? There's always hope. And I'm going to show you that there is going to be many implements and employment factors to do so. So please, if you'd like to watch that part, it'll be coming up very soon. And if you enjoy my channel, just watch anything. And if you want to subscribe, that's fine. A lot of people in a lot of videos are always pushing, subscribe to my channel. What if I don't want to? Alright, well, thank you everybody for listening and hearing about the information I had to share. And I hope it was of some benefit to anyone out there. You know what? I want you to have a good day.